Okay, that's brilliant. So, welcome everyone to this now third webinar in the ADBN third series. So, it's the third webinar of the third series of our webinars Beyond Existence, Exploring Life, Exploring and Living Life. I'm just going to ask if people can mute themselves, so we're getting some background noise. So I'd be grateful if people can just make sure they're on mute so we don't have that background noise. Thank you. So a warm welcome to this third webinar in the third series. For those that don't know me, my name is Pete Simcock, and I am based here in the Midlands in the UK, and I am the chair of the Acquired Deafblindness Network, working with my colleagues Femke Heiger in the Netherlands and Liz Duncan in the UK. So we're a growing network. Now, some attendees at this afternoon's webinar may not be members of the Acquired Deafblindness Network. So if you are interested in joining us so that you can attend our future webinars, so that you can receive our newsletter and be in contact with now over 430 people working, living, and researching in the field of acquired deafblindness, then please do contact me if you wish to join. I will put my email address in the chat later. Alternatively, please go to the Deafblind International website, look under networks, and there will be information on how you can join the network. So I think we're currently on about 448 members. So I'm really hoping that by the end of this month, we will have reached the 450 mark, and possibly with a goal of 500 at some point. I understand we're one of the biggest networks in Deafblind International. I try not to be too smug about that when I meet with the other network leaders, but I'm always pleased that we are growing in number. So for this webinar, it is entitled The Use of Social-Haptic Communication to Enable Deafblind People's Involvement in Hobbies, using the example of astronomy and haptices. And I'm delighted that I am welcoming friends, colleagues, and ADBN members themselves, doctors Riitta Lahtinen and Russ Palmer. And I would just like to add a further word of congratulations. For those that don't know, Russ received his honorary doctorate from the University of Oulu in Finland in the last couple of weeks. It's been a hugely busy time for both Riitta and Russ, so I'm delighted that they are joining us now. Now, I will allow Riitta and Russ to introduce themselves, but many of you will already be aware of their pioneering and influential work in the deafblind field, particularly on social haptic communication. In the webinar, Riitta and Russ will speak for approximately 30 to 45 minutes, followed by a period of sort of 15 minutes for questions. If you do have a question, please do type that in the chat, or alternatively, raise your hand via the Zoom raise hand function, and then unmute yourself to ask the question. And if I can please ask, before asking your question, please just state your name and where you are located. That would be very helpful. There will also be some opportunities during the presentation for attendees to ask questions, and Riitta and Russ will prompt on that if there are questions or comments as we go through. And can I just remind people that this is being recorded, and also please ask that once the webinar starts that people turn their cameras off and remain on mute so we don't get any background noise and so the system can cope with the bandwidth. I say that with a sense of authority, and I don't really fully understand the IT behind it all. I'm just assured that it's a bandwidth issue. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our speakers, Riitta and Russ. I'm going to share my screen so we have sight of the slides. Give me 2 seconds to do that.
And now the slides are just there.
Okay, now I'm just going to ask Riitta, are the slides showing now?
Yes, we can see that.
Perfect. So Riitta and Russ, over to you.
Okay, Russ. I was just saying that, Russ, you can then start your sign name and then...
Okay. Hi, my name is Russ Palmer. My sign name is like a little R on the side of my mouth. And like Peter said, I received an honorary doctorate 2 weeks ago from the University of Oulu, which is in the north part of Finland. It's been a tremendous honor and privilege to receive this high award. I even met the president of Iceland, who came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Russ Palmer. I read your biography. Fascinating." And so we had a nice little chat about this and that. And then somebody who is a Nobel Prize winner from America, blah, blah, blah. It was lovely to feel equal. But I just thought I'd share a little bit about the experience because I wear 2 cochlear implants and I'm also totally blind and I have Usher syndrome. And
yeah, of course.
And we get these wonderful hats like this one. I don't know if you can see this.
The black hat.
Like a black hat.
With the... Just put it on.
Eh?
Yeah, just so.
So, as you can see, it's like a top hat. And you have a wonderful emblem here. But in particular, it's been made from my cochlear implants. Because I asked the hat maker to make allowances for my implants. So it's a little bit wider, like a little wider cavity. So really, this is the first hat with a cochlear implant emphasis. So every time I put a hat on, it doesn't push my implants off. In addition, we get a sword, which I'll just show you a little bit of it. Don't worry, it's not a real sword. It's a ceremonial sword like this. I don't know if you can see this. You've got a lovely emblem here, which represents the medieval castle of Oulu, which is now a ruin. And it's got a lovely sort of crown here and another crown down here. And it's quite heavy.
Yeah, it's very long.
Yeah. And I had to carry this all day. Walking with this thing isn't easy because it swings. And then when you have to have a dance as well, that makes it even more interesting. Anyway, that's my background. I'm also a music therapist and a vibroacoustic therapy practitioner, which I've been doing studies for many years. Over to you, Lisa.
So, Russ, I think that why did you get this award, honorary doctorate? Because that will summarize perhaps your research area.
Well, it's all very rather strange because for the past 32 or 33 years since I've met Riitta, my sort of academic world has expanded, and certainly through the social haptic communication and also my own sort of specialist area of music therapy. It's taken a long time to do all these things, working specifically with the special education areas, allowing teachers to understand how to use music with their hearing impaired students, and also assisting Riitta with social haptic communication for a thesis in 2008. And that's still going on.
And how about the vibroacoustic and vibrosensoric?
Yes, vibroacoustics, for those of you who are not so familiar with this, really relates to different types of facilities that will help to relax the body using low tone frequency. Again, if you visit my website, you'll be able to see more information on this. But more importantly, the vibrosensoric approach, which is done with my colleague Stina Oljala from the University of Turku in the west part of Finland. So we wrote this paper about how people feel musical vibrations and also use their technology at the same time. It's a combination of using what you perhaps hear and what you feel through the body. Again, there's an article on this on the website, if anybody's interested, plus music and medicine article as well.
Yeah, and I'm Riitta, and this is my sign. And I did my PhD work on social haptics, and it started early 1990s when Russ, we met. So you have been my co-researcher all these 35 years on this, and you mean 33? Yeah. In August, yeah. Actually, we met in a DBI conference, so dangerous places. And I am now doing like research on this field and supervising different universities around the world. And there are a couple of PhD work going on, and we have already 2 PhD studies published, one in 2020 in 22 in Brazil and 24 last month in Italy, in Venice. So my main work is teaching social haptics, but also I work at the Finnish Deafblind Association teaching different communication methods, mobility, orientation, environmental description, and so on. So my work also involved a different kind of aspect, teaching and researching. But our main research area is in Andante research group at the University of Tampere in Finland, yes. So we are now basically in Finland, but we also travel quite a lot in the UK.
We also collaborate with Peter's University of City Birmingham, and also with Leeds University in the UK.
Yes. And Peter, the next slide, please. And we collected here a couple of these ideas. So it has been now, like Russ said, 33 years already on this. And the haptices and haptices, social-haptic communication, was published 2008. And nowadays, if you look about touch research, you can find many different areas. And on the blind area, you can think about a different kind of how we teach Braille, how we use mobility, how we use haptic exploration, but also in social psychology and cognitive neuroscience area. Next week in Finland, we have a neuroscience and music world conference where, Russ, you are involved, that how you use vibrosensoric experience using cochlear implants and then feeling the music. So there are many, many different areas. So it's a growing thing last 30 years. One important area just to mention is that 2019 in EU projects called Suitcase started to produce or try to develop smart clothes for deafblind people where we can give messages from distance. Because social haptics is always, we need to have a contact some way. But smart clothes can give one day the same opportunity to having that from a distance. And you, Russ, you tried once the first vest. So what's your experience about it?
Yeah, it's an interesting experience. What it is like a waistcoat type device. It had all these vibration sensors inside, and somebody connected it to a special computer and would indicate a direction, for example, orientating, or a particular symbol. It could be like a haptice of, say, emergency.
A big cross.
Which is a big X going across the back. And what was interesting, you could actually vary the intensity from the start point to the end.
Yeah.
From the start to the end. And that was quite interesting. So you're now dealing with technologies that are able to have these different variables that can either increase the intensity or decrease the intensity, or keeping the duration for a specific time. It's amazing how things have developed over the last 5 years.
Yes. Okay. And then we are coming back to our heading this talk. And next slide, please. So, Russ, what are haptices?
Well, haptices are a mixture of different sort of touch messages, such as if you're doing yes or no from side to side. So how do you portray that touch? In other words, when somebody is given a nodding, like a yes, this is relating to Northern Europe, you can portray the same head nodding through touch. Yes.
Yeah.
With the hand. Or if it's no, side to side. Side to side.
Yeah, that's no. Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, what we have done the last 30 years, that we have been taking the visual behavior, the visual clues from the environment or auditive ones, so we can then portray that to the body. And using that now 30 years, so for us, it's almost like another language what we use, almost all the time, basically, when we are together. And you also use this with your interpreters and your assistants.
Personal assistants or communicator guides.
Exactly, yeah.
Or friends.
Yeah, so the main important thing is when we are teaching are the grammar elements, and we call them haptices, and we come those a little bit later. And what is very interesting is that haptices share also multidimensional meanings and emotion, just like when we are using sign language or when we use spoken language. And next one, Peter. And when we were thinking about that, okay, hobbies. So Russ, what are your hobbies? So we were just pointing out here that where do we use haptices for last 2 or 3 months? And we were thinking we do go to museums and we can draw the paintings or show the landscape. We do music onto the body. We can do poems, dance. If we watch films, you are listening that. There's an audio description. At the same time, you can have also some aspect of haptices, doing photos, picture of emotions. When we go to new environment, we do the layout of the room. When we are watching slides, or when we are doing hobbies like football, bowling, or different games, and so on. I know we're thinking that is there some area we can't actually use haptices?
Well, I think it's there's endless ways you can use these expanding the basic social haptics. And one of the challenges as a deafblind person is because my sight has now gone since 2014, I found it's very difficult to see photographs or to see family photographs or to see objects. I used to do photography when I was younger, and I've always enjoyed that. But then since the vision's gone, I have to stop it. And like I used to do model making model kits, rockets and things. I can't do that, but now find a new way of doing it using online access. Somebody painting the rockets, and then I tell them what I need to have done because I remember that particular spacecraft before, or an object, or a military figure, etc. Yeah. So we can actually expand your different hobbies in such a way that you can now feel these objects in some way. Now, one of the challenges when you go to a museum, for example, it's not always possible to touch the objects because A, they may be very fragile, they may be very old, and some museums are not going to let you start touching all the fragile objects. So there may be other methods we can adopt to make life easier for the deafblind and also for the interpreter concerned.
Or just sharing about the visual things, isn't it, Russ?
Yeah. I mean, for example, if you're seeing a picture, one of the classic examples, it could be a portrait, it could be a photograph, or it can be a portrait of a person. There are many variables concerned. But how you do that and how you portray that information is really how social haptics can lend itself.
Yeah. So now when you are starting to draw about portraits, so what we do is that we use perhaps the arm or shoulder area, but on the back. I know it's a little bit tricky now to showing it here, but the back is usually the biggest area, and I do it on the area here in front. So you could have the color touch. You can make the story of the painting. So you paint, you could actually do the drawings, how if it's an abstract way or specific scenery, and probably you read first who has been the painter, and then what is the name of the painting, and then we can just do exactly how the painter has done it. So there are different kind of way how you can do it, but the most important is that little by little you start to practice your understanding and using your memory of those sceneries, and you are combining that through your bodily experience. Sometimes you can take the movements by hands. So it means that if you're using spoken language or you're using signing or hands-on signing, you can combine these haptices, or it can be separately, individually done.
For example,
for example, can we just take the first slide of for example? Yes, please, Peter. Because we have so many things here to say, and I'm concerned. Okay, but now we have for example, and you have the 2 coins here first, because one of your hobby is actually, you like to look about old coins. So how do you do that then?
Well, if I show, for example, this is not really a good example, but this is actually like a squash coin that's been shaped into an oval mat. It's actually an old Finnish marker.
Mark.
One mark. And it's got some writing across here, and I believe a line in the middle or something.
Yes, yeah. And you have the
the Finnish line, which is very similar to the Welsh crown, the Welsh dragon, actually, in Wales. So there are some sort of connections there. And how you describe this in such a way, so I can't see anything, but I can feel the object here. I can feel there's writing here, and I can feel there's a certain shape. So how Riitta or my interpreter would actually describe this, we can now demonstrate.
So I need to demonstrate that on the air. So if you hold that on there, so that's okay. So for example, of course, first we do the area, so it's an oval shape. Then if I'm using spoken language, we say the Finnish mark. So we just do the line, writing area there.
How's that spelled?
So I'm not going to spell because it's a very many letters there, but I'm just showing the location when you are then feeling that there. Because I'm looking what your finger is doing. So I am actually showing how long that writing is going on. And then when we move that to number 1, so it's under, so then I just draw actually that number 1, and when it is actually there. And then I start to the lower part, actually just location info, and then you are feeling again that line or that writing there, marker. Yes, and then there's this V kind of sign of that 1 mark when it has been taken away because it is a last mark. But basically, this is when we use haptices, but we are using it like a location, using the space where things has been written or where you can find the symbols. And that is very basic level when we are teaching that how people can very easily to start to describe. That is your 1 mark. Okay. So then, Russ, you have another picture here, and you have the 3 pictures of aircrafts. So one of your hobby is air shows.
Air shows. That's been an interesting challenge since I've not been able to see anymore, but I remember a lot of the old aircraft from World War I, World War II, and some of the modern ones as well. And I'm always interested to hear, what's that? What aircraft is that? Is that a biplane, or is that a 4-propeller Lancaster or Spitfire or whatever, or jet, an F-16 or a Typhoon fighter, Harrier jump jet, this sort of stuff. But to portray that, because it's moving, then you've got an additional challenge here, because you've got to portray it as it's happening.
Yes.
And what happens there, the best way of doing this is the person who's giving you the information, for them to draw it on your back so you can follow the location of the aircraft concerned.
Yes, because
going from left to right, or red arrows or whatever.
So basically, if we are just looking at, you don't have a camera, I can always showing and using my hand. But if you have a camera there and you want to take a photograph, so when you are having your camera there, and I'm just doing a rush on the back, and I'm going to do that on the air first, and then on your back. So if I'm doing the first one like that, and now Russ, where is your camera? You put the camera ready, and how do you know when to take? Oh, now I knocked your implant off. Okay, it's not family crisis. So what is happening here, Russ?
So what Riitta is doing is drawing 2 red arrows coming across each path like that, and then going up.
Yeah. And what is happening? How I show when to take a picture?
Well, so Riitta then presses hard at that point that they're getting closer and closer, go away or take a couple shots.
Yeah, because when I'm behind you, I have the same view. So when they are in the middle of your vision field, I know that you can't see it. But then when I make the change, I'm pressing, and then you know, aha, now I can probably take the picture. And these are actually taking the pictures. The middle one, Russ, is this kind of aircraft, if you can just show that how they are doing.
Going from left to right.
And how many?
2.
2 aircrafts, yeah. And the last one is the red arrows.
basically maybe I can't remember about 7 or 8 going across, or 9 going across in some sort of shape.
Yeah. So here, basic information is just the route, or how I can see that they are flying. And then we can do, like, if they're coming left to the right or coming upwards or downwards, the speed is one thing. So the quicker I do, of course, the faster they go. Sometimes also the numbers. We can do quite easily up to 6, but if it's like 7 or 8, then it's more difficult, because we can't, if I put 8 fingers there or 9 fingers, we can't count that, because of the haptic distance on the back is too narrow, so we can't do. But then probably I will explain verbally or signing that there is now 9 of them, and then the direction and the speed.
The most important is being active, knowing which way they're traveling and what they're actually doing. And then afterwards, if you need to know how many aircraft involved, then you can ask that information.
Yeah. So when was you were just now, and you are going in August also the air show. So what does it give? Because it's very visual. I know that when we are going there, you can feel the sound, it's bodily experience, and the atmosphere.
Well, I don't know if any of you have experienced being under a Vulcan bomber aircraft, or well, it used to be the what do you call it? The Typhoon one. You know, when they put the afterburner on, my goodness, it shakes your whole body. Yeah, it's a very, very holistic sensation.
Yeah, it's almost like your vibrosensoric and haptics, everything just in one on the bodily experience. And I always wonder, what is happening in your mind when you are there, and then your mind is open, and then we are hapteering, the word hapteering, drawing on your back. So do you see that in your mind, or how does it work for you?
Well, it gives me an image, and I suppose I visualize it myself in my own way.
Yes. Yeah. So you use perhaps your memory beforehand?
The memory, and if it's a totally new air, then that requires a little bit of manipulation. Like I had the advantage one time being in an air show in Finland, and the pilot noticed I wasn't able to see, and very kindly took me in over the gate to actually feel the wing of a Typhoon aircraft. And I'm not joking, it's so thin, it's just unbelievably thin compared to a Spitfire aircraft. You know, it's quite thick, but this is really thin. No wonder it's so flexible.
Yeah. And next slide, please, Peter. Now we are coming to this area where we have the heading like astronomy and so on. That is your biggest hobby perhaps nowadays, largest one.
Being a fellow of the British Interplanetary Society in the UK, which focuses on space travel for the future. Back in the 60s, they were very much involved with the predictions for moon landing, etc., and even a special suit back in the late 50s. Some of you may have heard of Arthur C. Clarke, but he is one of the founder members of this association. And it's still going strong, and we have very interesting lectures. And one of the things I find nowadays is, because I can't see these wonderful pictures of planets taken by various probes, etc. I mean, one of the fascinating things is, you know, like Saturn. I remember seeing Saturn, the planet, and other planets as well when I was younger. But to not, you know, to see these detailed photographs now, like Pluto, it's a little bit more tricky.
And here, Russ, you are in our lounge on this photograph, and you have your iPad on the table. Then you have your mobile phone on your left leg, and then you have something on your neck, and then you have a loop to your hearing aids, and then you have a funny little cut of object on your hand. Can you explain first this kind of environment? What is happening here?
Well, this is back in 2020 when the Mars Perseverance rocket took off during the pandemic time. For those of you who don't know, there was various spacecraft going to Mars, but on this occasion, this is quite a different rocket to what I'd seen before. So I had my colleague Stina in Finland on my mobile, which is connected, because she's very technical. And then I had Riitta here with me in the lounge, and we had my iPad, and I had my neck loop down here, which is like a Bose soundware, which I can hear the speaking to the actual live transmission.
In one ear?
Yeah, this was around my neck like this. Yeah. So I had another technical information connected to my mobile. Stina was giving me the technical information, what was happening, etc. And Riitta would give me the visual.
Yes, so I was using the back.
Yeah, but in addition, she made this lovely cutout of the actual rocket. It's a very simple sort of homemade cardboard rocket to give me an idea of what the rocket shape is with the boosters. And also the next section, once it's separated, what does it look inside? And later, when it actually landed on Mars, they had this unusual sort of vehicle called Ingenuity, which is actually a helicopter. Now, I'm sure all of you know that a helicopter to me is like a conventional rotor blade with a long tail, etc. On this one, it's like a square-looking box, which is totally different to what you think it is. And I couldn't get my head around this. So by Riitta picked up 2 of her blood pressure pill boxes and snapped up a couple of legs on it and a little blade on top. And it gave me that perception. My goodness, it really like that. So yeah, just a little bit of creativity along with support from family and friends can make your life a little bit easier, and you can experience that live launching sensation, even though I couldn't see anything at all.
Yeah. When I have been you now 30 years, and I think that it is very important having this haptic exploration, so what you can actually do with your hands.
Yeah.
So you have all different kind of information, but aren't you overloaded because you have so many information coming at the same time? How do you pick up what to listen or what to feel, or how? Because many people are always asking, are you overloaded because there's so many information coming?
I pick up the information I particularly need at that particular moment. Even though Stina was telling me about, okay, we've now got 3 seconds, 2 seconds, now it's moving up. It's got the liquid hydrogen, not oxygen or whatever. And I pick up this information while Riitta's giving me the visual.
Yeah.
So I just pick up the information I need as I go along. And similarly, when we were in Denmark, I believe, we went to observation platform where we saw a telescope. And it's the only last time I saw Jupiter through the telescope during my little narrow tunnel vision line. So you had a little field telescope where you could actually find where the location of the object, and you could just see the little moons. And you were drawing on my back what it was looking like while Stina was describing what it was. So it's marvelous teamwork. And I think this is where it's lovely to get people working as a team, because you can get so much information at that particular moment. Yeah. And believe me, to see Jupiter in that night sky as I did, wow, it made my day.
So I remember that after this NASA thing and your BIS, how do you call it, British Interplanetary Society, and you were asking so many questions there, and they said, oh, Russ, we are so fascinating about knowing that how a deafblind person or visually impaired, hard of hearing person can actually follow. And they asked you to write an article.
Yes, in the Spaceflight magazine, which is produced by the British Interplanetary Society, which you can actually view on my website. We ended up doing 2 articles about assistance, accessibility in museums. The editor at that time, David Baker, was a very renowned writer of space magazines and books, asked me, well, can you write an article about this? And then I got Stina involved to assist me on trying to describe the universe and things like this. How do you describe the solar system? How do you do this? And we have some photographs.
Yeah. Can we, Peter, have the next slide? Because now you're talking. Now it's on the screen.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So what's this now?
Now you have the solar system, and then under you have the Milky Way.
Here you can see 2 slides. One which shows the solar system. Now, for those of you who are not so into haptices, I have to first of all say thanks to Stina for her support on this, because we both work this system ourselves. So what you have is like a solar system through your hand. If you can imagine, you've got the sun on your left side. I know this is probably the opposite way around here. And then you've got the Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Where your 2 thumbs are the asteroid belt. They're those nasty little rocks that still sometimes come out of there and try to hit the Earth from time to time. And then we have Saturn, sorry, no, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune.
Yeah, and
we have little Pluto that doesn't stay in the same orbit as the others, but it somehow goes around in an elliptical orbit. Okay, so that's your basic solar system. And I thought, wow, this is really good. So in Venice, we wrote this practical paper called Haptices, which was very well received. And then we also explore, if you want to go further out, the second slide, what's the Milky Way look like? I mean, I've seen some things before about this beautiful sort of, almost like a Saturn with all these stars on, but I've never really thought about it. But the perception of how big it is and where we are, if you take your little finger here, which becomes the solar system, where people can see it.
Yes, I'm just having your hands up. Yeah.
And then if you work up to the next part, it's actually, I think this is where the Kuiper belt is, somewhere here. Then we have the Oort cloud by the Vista. Now, the Oort cloud is a fascinating, and I think this is where the Voyager spacecraft is located or something. Then we have Proxima Centauri, somewhere here.
Yeah.
And then we have the
Kepler star,
Kepler and the exoplanets, somewhere here. And up to
Sirius.
the elbow, the dog star.
Yeah, Sirius.
Yeah, Sirius. Now we get to the interesting bit. If you put your hands out side by side, you have the actual spiral of the Milky Way. All those stars, whatever they are, then your head is what we call a central bulge. Now, still thinking back, the solar system where we are is on this still little finger, and that's one galaxy. And you've got billions of galaxies out there. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. So that's what Haptices is all about.
Yeah.
And if anybody would like us to talk about that as another thing later, please let us know.
And probably if Peter, if you could write our website, www.russpalmer.com, because they are free there, so you could find these articles if you are interested to read more about this. But Russ, you said that when you're looking or listening about these astro lectures and so on, how do you use? Is interpreter then showing, because there's about slides and so on, do they actually then draw that on your body, pointing out what it is and so on? So is it helping you to understand what is on the slides?
I mean, if you take, for example, a picture of a beautiful star cluster or nebula, or what we call pillars of creation, I'm sure you may have seen that, what Hubble took, with these very, very unusual stalactite type, wonderful looking cluster of stars. That, to my mind, is quite something. And then when you see the James Webb Telescope version of that, that goes into further detail. And that's the thing I've never seen. So you have to then take that basic picture of what you remember and then go to the next level. So it's like done in different stages.
Yeah.
So drawing on your back will give you an idea of the location of these star clusters, or whatever they are,
shapes,
black holes and things, and the shapes,
yeah,
and the colors too. And the colors represent different sort of chemical, nitrogen, oxygen,
yeah,
whatever, helium.
Yeah. Then I think that before questions and chatting, I like to show when you use also like haptic exploration. Russ, giving you this for visual, it's orange ball. What on earth is this?
This is actually, again, thanks to Stina, who her brother, one of her cousins actually produces for us. And it's a planet Mars, a 3D perspective of Mars. Now, you probably, I don't know if you can see, but there's some very unusual little objects. This is actually the biggest, sorry, this one.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually the biggest volcano in the solar system, as far as we know, of Olympus Mons. And it's bigger than Everest. I can't remember exactly how many times, maybe 50 times bigger. And then you have these three other little volcanoes scattered around. And then somewhere you've got like a scar.
Yeah, it starts on the middle one there. Yeah.
Where?
Then there, yes, yeah.
I don't know if it's difficult to see, but there's a scar running right across the planet.
So just it.
And it's called Mare.
I was just having this word for you. It's Vallis
Marinus.
Yeah.
Vallis Marinus.
Great Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically down here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a big gouge
Yeah.
of a canyon, like, which is about 8 kilometers deep and 600 kilometers. Sorry, yeah, is it 8 kilometers deep?
Deep, yes.
Yeah. And 600 kilometers wide.
Yeah.
Right across the Mars.
Yes. So, but then you have your own little markers. There's one there and one there. So, how haptices are working now? When we do the Olympus here, and then we have the 3 other big mountains, and then the scar, I like to call it, Great Canyon there. And then when you are looking about these, then I orientate through that. I first do the landmarks, and then okay, one is there, and then the other one is there, and then I need to go to the other side, and then just saying the directions to the other one. So now I'm observing that's what you are researching, or your interpreters observing. So then they are giving you the directional information and location, what you are probably looking.
I mean, bear in mind, when you have the object in front of you, you are the interpreter, or whoever's giving the information is giving you those particular points. You can move with that.
Yes.
The other bumps I've got here are actually locations of different probes that landed on Mars, like Curiosity, Perseverance, Viking back in the 70s, and so on.
And then I noticed, Russ, that you have a little white marker here also.
This is what we call my pen friend. That actually has a recorded message, just reminding me what object this is.
And what are the landings?
Yeah, what are the bits.
Yeah. So basically, when you are learning Mars, I can just quickly look, oh, that is Mars. It takes me 10, 15 seconds. And for you, you need to wait about having this 3D object, then studying it, marking it, and so on. So it will be perhaps 2-3 months project, actually. Okay. And I think now it's 20 past. Do you think, Peter, it's good idea if we look if there's any questions? Don't worry about the other ones there now, because I was thinking that if people would like to have a chat, or if they want to give comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly happy to open it up to questions. First, may I just say thanks, Riitta and Russ, for a really interesting presentation. I'm always, and you've heard me say this before, I'm always interested in how learning from the deafblind population actually encourages our own learning. And in the example of the solar system and the galaxy, the use of a haptic, even though I'm a sighted hearing person, really helps me understand a sense of scale. And it is through that approach, rather than reading about it, that I actually found it more helpful. So here is another example, I think, of learning that transcends the deaf-blind field, and that naturally can be helpful to everyone.
Yeah.
So thanks for your presentation. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or queries for Riitta and Russ? Anybody have any questions? Please put them in the chat or hands up. Katerina, you have a question.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katerina, and I am from Greece. Thank you very much for your presentation. You know Georgia Papa from here very well.
Oh, yeah, Georgia, yeah.
Yes, yes. I would like to ask a more general question about haptics. First of all, it's a language, or is it a system of communication combined with a sign language or with a tactile language?
Yeah, that is a very good question. We have different level of haptices. And if you are starting to learn that now, perhaps like my deafblind people, they know 20, 30, 50, and so on. So then it could be like supported system for them if they're using like spoken language or sign language, perhaps giving the room layout where you are and the chairs and so on, or face expression, you are smiling and so on. But for us who is using that already 30 years, in the morning when I'm going to work, Russ, you don't put your implants on. I will tell you already on your body that, okay, now I'm coming back that time, and you are making questions and I answer. So I feel that we already have this as a basic language, but it is only because we are using it 24/7. So I think that many mothers and parents of congenitally deafblind, they have already that kind of connection and interaction all the time. So if I'm observing them, I can see already that starting off the language side, and when they are then adding perhaps signing and so on. So it's the first thing there. If you are assistant or interpreter, the problem is that you are only producing it. You are never receiving it. So I'm lucky because when we are somewhere, Russ is already giving me a lot of messages. So I have now been able to understand the grammar aspect. So if you are lacking that kind of receiving it, then most of your understanding is visual based, and it's totally different than visual based. But you could actually aim to that. And if you look about like painting, if you like to feel that kind of environment, the colors and so on, in that moment, in my mind, you are sharing that to the person. It's the same thing that if you're visually looking it, or if you are signing it, or you can hear audio description on it, then we use sharing. But it means that my hands are giving you, Russ, the extra quality there because I'm sharing that what I see. And that is already, in my mind, very valuable interaction moment on that. And it's going towards the language. Sometimes when you use spoken language with someone, I can totally describe another thing. And you just pick up what you are. So it's that kind of moment now breaking, we are going now towards the language. And how that does work, it's very interesting. And we are now writing about article on that how actually that function is changing to be towards language. But if I'm just asking more morning that, okay, Russ, I'm going home. Are you here? Do you like anything from the shop? Okay. Do you like to have now coffee? Or do you like to go shower? So what is that if I'm asking that here, if that is not as a language? So perhaps we can then enlarge the language kind of understanding what is actually language.
Thank you.
So it's a very good question.
I have another one. I don't know if I have the time to do it. Peter?
Yeah, go for it, Katarina. Yeah.
Okay. It is.
Sorry, Russ, do you want to actually add yourself something here? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sort of building up sentence structures to actually bring out this most important parts that are concerned, like if I'm going to shower, or I'm walking, I'm going out.
And the body story is already like...
So given those basic aspects of information that will reinforce to the person what's going on, whatever happened.
Yeah, okay.
It's more clear now in my mind. Thank you. And the second question is, it is an international system or every country has its own system? For example, in Greece, when we start to use it with deafblind community, shall we based on your system?
Yeah. Like I said, that there are many different levels. And the basic level is very international. So if I'm touching Russ on the shoulder, so what does it mean? It means that somebody is coming to your left side. So everybody understands somebody's there on the left side. They can't understand that it's on the right side. Or if I'm leaving, the directional information. So there are some elements of already very international. And it looks like the face expression, because of the system that we use symbols already, smiles and so on. So that is making it more like international. So when we started to do the face expression, 1994, 95, we didn't even have a computer that time. We didn't have any face expression, additional things what we are sending, but we were thinking about that, how our face expression is changing. So it's also then adaptable for born blind who has never seen any face expression, but when you can actually then feel, okay, what is happening on your face. So basic level is fine, but then when you are going to the next and the third level, it's more specializing, and it depends if the haptices are based on the national signs, or is it more based on the written language or visual things, your body movements. So you could have two different kind of thing, like let's say angriness. The bodily angriness is how you feel, how your body is feeling. So I make that angriness. Yeah. But then if it's a visual based, when somebody has been reading like cartoons and you have this V, W, so then they are doing that.
Okay.
Okay, but this you need to learn in a symbol area because it doesn't give you bodily experience to be angriness. So it depends what way you go. But if you are interested to know more about it, chat later, perhaps you just send us an email and we can share some more ideas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katerina. Does anybody else have any questions for Riitta and Russ? Any other questions?
Hello, Peter.
Hi, Roger.
Yeah,
Roger.
I'm Roger in the UK. It's inspiring, isn't it? I'm new to haptics. I'm quite deaf and losing sight and using speech, and I'm interested in haptics, but new to it. It's so different to face-to-face communication. Is there a kind of principle? Do you have to be the teacher behind the learner, or side by side, as opposed to the normal visual face-to-face when you're communicating? Is that a kind of principle behind it, or am I being too imaginative?
No.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I've always been a spoken language user, and I never really did sign language when I was at school because we weren't allowed to use sign language. So it actually helps to bridge the gap between trying to develop your tactile sense through your body and getting familiar with some of the deaf-blind alphabet, communication methods, and also some hands-on methods.
But you also use hands-on and
yes, I use a combination of
yeah.
everything. It just depends on the situation I'm in. But you know, a lot of people can already have these hidden touch messages inside us. You know, when we're communicating, there are different gestures we use, which we are not aware of, but they can be portrayed to touch. And this is what social haptic does.
So like now we are sitting side by side and I'm using Russ's arm. Sometimes when you are listening lecture, sometimes your PA can be behind you. So you can agree where you like to receive on your neutral area of your body, how you like to use it.
It's giving you the extra quality of information, the visual information you're missing out on. If we have tunnel vision like Usher syndrome, like I used to have with the limited vision I did have before, I was missing out a lot of body language, I had to always scan my head to find this information. It actually avoids me having to use extra energy. It gave me that extra quality of information I was missing out.
Yeah. And for example, like what we were just teaching one couple now, that, okay, when you are sitting here and you want to go to the kitchen, so I could draw that kind of route on the back down, you go 12 o'clock, stop, and then you turn to the left, and then again 12 o'clock. So I will draw that kind of route on your back, and you will probably remember that longer than the verbal information. And if people have some kind of problems to memorizing so many things and so on, this could also help them to remember things or locating. Just like Russ, when you did have your water bottle, or where's my water bottle? I didn't say that it's on the right side or it's 1 o'clock on the floor. I was just showing that direction on the back, very hidden way. So, and if you are listening loop system, you can't hear my voice at time. So I can actually then just show in the directional information. So it depends on the situation where you are and what do you like to have, what is your hobby? Can they actually be portrayed on your back?
It depends on the context of what's happening.
Yes. Yeah. Are you based on the Deafblind UK?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trustee of Deafblind UK.
Yeah. Yes. Perhaps we can. Yeah. We can perhaps come one day to there and just, if people are interested, to show that, because it's a little bit difficult now to verbally just telling about it. You need to experience that yourself.
Yeah.
Can I ask you very quickly?
Yeah.
Do you ever use Braille?
Braille.
In a tactile kind of way. When I've been teaching children who are deafblind, we soon they knew a bit of Braille. It's different from, they learnt Braille as children. So we were both Braillists, and we could talk to each other on our hands very quickly using braille signs and dots.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say the word father simply by a tap on the letter F on a person's hand.
Yes.
Could that be part of it?
Yeah, that is like a writing system, if you like, because it's letter based, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can use like a finger spelling or braille based or block letters. So that is more like. But if you do like, if I'm saying that here's loop system T, switch on T, so I'm doing that letter T on the shoulder. So then Russ know, okay, now we need to switch our hearing aids on switch T. So some are letter based, or some could be like braille based. It depends which group I work with. So if you know already braille, then that is a good starting point to try, because if I'm doing braille to your fingers, we don't have any machines, so I can do that. Then you have developed already that tactile perception there. So which I will be thinking, oh, I can use that first on the first level, and then discussing with you, okay, what kind of elements we can use here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Roger. I think we have time for one more question. And Mahild, apologies if I've pronounced your name incorrectly there. Your hand is up.
I don't have a very international name, so no one outside of Norway can pronounce it. But nice to see you again, Riitta and Russ. It's been a long time. My name is Magnhild. I am located in Norway, and my background is as an interpreter, and I now do teach interpreter students. And I found the presentation very interesting. Thank you both. And I also think what you are talking about, that it is definitely language-based, or if it's an own language, it's hard to define what is really language. Because I find that utterances do not make meaning without it sometimes. So I would say that it is language-based. But my question is about the change of attention. Because Riitta, you were talking about sometimes if Russ is in a conversation and you can describe something else on the back.
Yeah.
So there would be a split the attention. And Russ can receive both of them at the same time, as it would be for me as a sighted and hearing person. I could hear something and see something at the same time. But how does it work with switching attention? Because sometimes I suppose what's going on haptically would be drawing Russ's attention, because that would be like, what is that? Or like if I'm in a conversation and I see something, and that would take my attention away.
Yeah.
Would it work the same way, and would you shift between attentions, Russ, between hearing and speaking and receiving the haptices? Would that make you change attention?
It all depends on what's happening. Like, for example, when I use interpreters, my interpreter may give me some haptices onto my arm or shoulder or back. And if I'm having a conversation with somebody else, and like, say my interpreter needs to have a break to perhaps go to the bathroom, then she or he will give me a sort of haptice to demonstrate, oh, we're now changing interpreters. So I don't have to stop talking, but I remember, okay, my interpreter is now changing, and then I just give a thing like that to acknowledge, okay.
But like it's a very good question, because it's very important that, you know, that when we were in your honorary doctorate party and you were talking with the president of Iceland, then your interpreter was just giving you information, and now the next one is coming, and then giving you agreed name haptice. But you were just talking, and then you were saying, okay, now I think that somebody else is coming here to us, and then you were turning to that, and who are you? So you took actually the control, but you were not having the attention straight away. No. So you have learned, delayed it.
So it's sort of like it's information I'm getting in a spontaneous way that I can pick and choose that particular right moment to then focus my attention, saying, okay, now I think somebody else needs to talk to me or whatever.
Yeah, I think that it is, I don't know if you have a deafblind person who has been using this, like, let's say 10 years. I think that then a change of attention is delayed, because the new ones, they are thinking that that is so powerful using touch that they have to react that straight away. So that is a one learning process that when you don't need to always, but that is information what is happening in reality time. But I will teach you so that if you know that your client is very new on this, delayed your, like, we call it like a delayed description for the deafblind. So you just finish that and then I will give that information. Because many times when you are new, you are first reacting to the touch, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, there was actually one occasion on the adopted party where the fire alarm went off.
Oh, yes.
And people didn't react straight away. They thought, oh, probably just another, warning or something. Yeah. But my interpreter gave me the cross on the back. So I instantly stopped because I knew that was urgent and I need to move from my end.
Yeah. And then you were actually saying that why not people are not moving? So you were thinking that why our hands are not, perhaps immersionally way of doing it. So it was funny, but you did actually that moment, you were reacting it very quickly. Right. There was actually fire alarm in the party.
Then people started to move.
Then they started to go outside. Yeah. But that is a very important thing. And you know that when you have a deaf person who is using sign language, because if we touch on the shoulder, just I'm here, they always stop signing and everything, because that is their behavior on that moment, that if somebody's touching the deaf person, they always have the contact, don't they? So you need almost like relearn, also not always react if you are doing something important there and just say, wait a moment, and then you finish what you're doing. Or then you have to take your control yourself, that, okay, now wait a moment, somebody came here. But that's why we have this immersion thing that, okay, now I need to have your attention. So we use more pressure when you need to react quickly. That is perhaps one way to learn it, if it's something what you need to react instantly. Yeah. Do you think that is what you have been experiencing? Yeah. Thumbs up.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm conscious we've unfortunately come to the end of our time. I'd just like to, we do have some comments in the chat, Riitta and Russ, so just to go through those. Tracy Osborne in the UK, thank you for an interesting talk and demonstration. Joe Brady in the UK also, thank you, Russ and Riitta, you both certainly hooked me. That was so interesting. And I agree with Peter's comments about us learning from haptics. The solar system was a brilliant example of that. Jane Silito Crouch, I think, Jane, you're in the UK. Thank you, that was a great example. And Yen Gettelman, I'm not sure where you are, Yen, but Jen says, thank you for sharing this great information. I have to run to another meeting. Have a great day and night, everyone. And Georgia, hi, Georgia. It's nice to see you here. A new member of ADBN. It's good to have you here from Greece, says thank you. So lots of positive feedback there in the chat. Yeah. So just to bring this afternoon to a close, first of all, huge thanks, Riitta and Russ, for this excellent and very interesting webinar. I know we could talk again, so inevitably we'll be inviting you to continue these discussions at a future webinar. But I appreciate that it's been an incredibly busy few weeks for you both. So to take the time out to do a webinar for us in the evening, a warm Finland evening, we are very grateful to you. We have another comment. I'll just read this out from Monica. Monica is also in the UK. I work as a guide and interpreter, and this will help me greatly with a particular person with ushers who loves challenges and loves learning more. Thank you. And she adds, Finland is beautiful too. I have to agree, Monica. Finland is very beautiful.
Yeah.
May I?
Peter, May I
Yeah.
ask one favor?
Of course.
If anybody would like to ask any personal thing, can you just give if you can write the address there on the chat, which email you want to?
I will do. I've already put in the chat Russ's website, which has your email addresses. So www.russpalmer.com. So if people want to access further information, please do have a look on the website.
And if anybody would like any more information about the environmental description, we have these books available as well.
Mm-hmm. I think the information about the books and the publications is on the website. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
But thank you, Peter, and your group. Yeah. And I had an idea that perhaps Russ is another area would be later perhaps into the sensoric experience. What is that with another researcher?
Which I can probably do with Stina on that one, because that's something that we both share, and both musical, how you describe musical haptices and that sort of thing as well. So, yeah.
That would be excellent. Thank you. So really interesting afternoon. As well as thanking our speakers, I would also like to thank Deafblind UK for providing the Zoom license for us to host these webinars. And of course, thank you to you all for joining us this afternoon. Our next and final webinar in this third series will be taking place on Wednesday, the 4th of September at 4:30 Central European Time. And that webinar is entitled Parenting and Acquired Deafblindness, the Experiences of Children and Parents. And our speaker includes a researcher who looked at the experiences of children whose parents are deafblind, and also a parent who has Usher syndrome, so is deafblind herself. So please do keep in touch, everybody, with the network. And if you have any ideas yourselves of any speakers or any topics that you would like covered in our future webinar series, please do let us know. I know some ideas have already emerged from this webinar, so we look forward to our next series. But stay in touch. Thank you for belonging to our network, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Riitta and Russ.
Thanks, Peter.